Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human ship New Horizon. The ship moved slowly through space, far from Earth. 200 humans worked on the ship. They were looking for new planets and making maps of empty space areas. Lisa Carter worked as the science officer. She sat at her computer screen watching for strange signals. Her job was to find new things in space. Today, something different appeared on her screen. "Captain, I see energy readings," Lisa said. She pointed at the bright dots on her screen. "Something big is moving in the next star system." Morrison walked over to look. He was a tall man with gray hair. He had been a space captain for 15 years. "What kind of energy?" he asked. "Unknown type." "Much stronger than our ships?" Lisa answered. Her face looked worried. "Should we go check it out?" Morrison thought for a moment. His crew was good, but they were explorers, not fighters. Still, this was their job. Set course for the system, but keep our distance. As the New Horizon moved closer, they saw the truth. Giant ships floated near a dead planet. The ships were black and covered with spikes. They looked like space monsters. Inside those ships lived the Vex. They came from a world where only the strongest survived. Every Vex stood 8 feet tall. Their skin was like metal armor. Sharp claws grew from their hands. Their mouths had teeth like knives. Acid dripped from their tongues. The Vex had traveled across space for many years. They hunted other species, like animals. 17 different planets now belonged to them. The people on those planets were slaves or food. Commander Zethkar led the Vex hunting fleet. He was bigger than other Vex, with scars covering his arms. His claws were longer and sharper. He had killed more prey than any other hunter. "New ship detected," said a Vex soldier. "Small size, weak energy output." Zethkar looked at the screen showing the New Horizon. The human ship looked tiny next to his war vessels. "Another prey species," he said. His voice sounded like rocks, grinding together. "Scan their ship, find their home planet." The Vex computers worked fast. Soon they had all the information about Earth and humans. Zethkar smiled, showing his terrible teeth. Humans looked soft and weak. No claws, no armor, no real weapons. This would be easy hunting. "Send the surrender message," Zethkar ordered. On the New Horizon, alarm started ringing. The alien ships had found them. "Captain, we're being scanned," Lisa said. Her hands shook as she worked. "And we're getting a message." Morrison listened as the alien voice filled the bridge. The words were translated by their computer, but the meaning was clear. Surrender or be destroyed. Morrison looked at his crew. They were scientists, engineers, and explorers, not soldiers, but they were still human. "Open a channel," Morrison said. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth ship New Horizon. We come in peace. We wish to talk." The Vex laughed. They had heard these words before from other weak species. It always meant the same thing: fear. "You will surrender now," Zethkar replied. "Your species will serve us. Your planet will feed us." Morrison felt cold fear in his stomach, but he kept his voice steady. "We cannot surrender, but we can discuss terms for peaceful contact." The Vex stopped laughing. This was new. Prey animals always surrendered when they saw Vex ships. These humans were either very brave or very stupid. "Disable their engines," Zethkar ordered his weapons officer. "Prepare boarding teams." Blue energy beams shot from the Vex ships. The beams hit the New Horizon's engine room. Sparks flew everywhere. The lights went out, then came back on dim and red. Amy Rodriguez, the chief engineer, ran to her control station. "Engines are dead," she called out. "We're sitting ducks." Ben Hayes led the ship's security team. He had 12 Marines with him. They were good soldiers, but they only had small weapons meant for shipboard use. "Boarding pods incoming," Lisa reported. She watched as small Vex ships flew toward them. "They're going to board us." Morrison grabbed the ship's communication system. "All crew, this is the captain. Hostile aliens are boarding our ship. Security teams to defensive positions. All other crew, lock yourselves in safe rooms." The Vex boarding pods hit the New Horizons, hull like hammers. Metal tore apart. Air rushed out into space. Emergency doors slammed shut. Vex warriors poured through the holes. They moved fast despite their size. Their claws cut through metal doors like paper. Their eyes glowed in the dark. Ben Hayes and his Marines tried to stop them. They fired their weapons at the aliens. The bullets bounced off Vex armor like raindrops. The Vex laughed and kept coming. "Fall back," Hayes shouted. But there was nowhere to go. The Vex were too fast and too strong. One by one, the human defenders fell. Some were knocked out by Vex clubs. Others were paralyzed by alien stun weapons. The Vex wanted prisoners alive, not dead. Lisa Carter tried to hide in her lab. She deleted important files from her computer. Information about Earth's location and defenses. But the Vex found her anyway. Big clawed hands grabbed her arms and dragged her away. In 30 minutes it was over. 50 humans were captured, including Lisa Carter and half the science team. The Vex loaded them into transport pods and took them back to their ship. Morrison stood on his damaged bridge. Half his crew was gone. His ship was broken. The aliens now knew where Earth was located. "Captain, what do we do?" Amy Rodriguez asked. Her face was covered with dirt and blood from the engine room fight. Morrison had 3 choices. He could try to rescue his captured crew members. He could run back to Earth to warn everyone. Or he could surrender and hope the aliens would be merciful. Amy looked at the mining equipment controls. The New Horizon was built to dig up asteroids and collect space rocks. The mining tools were powerful. Maybe too powerful for just mining. "Captain," Amy said slowly, "these aliens think we're weak prey animals. Maybe it's time to show them what humans do when their family is threatened." Morrison looked at his remaining crew. Scientists, engineers, miners, and cooks. Not soldiers. But they were human, and humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They had climbed the highest mountains and crossed the deepest oceans. "You're right," Morrison said. "Send a message to all remaining crew. We're not running, we're not surrendering, we're going hunting." The Vex thought they had won easy prey. They had no idea that they had just poked a sleeping monster. A monster that had been the top predator on Earth for thousands of years. A monster called humanity. Inside the Vex command ship, 50 human prisoners sat in metal cages. The cages were small and cold. Strange purple lights glowed from the ceiling. Lisa Carter pressed her face against the metal bars and watched the alien guards. The Vex walked, like big cats hunting prey. Their claws clicked on the metal floor. They spoke to each other in growling voices. Lisa had studied many alien languages, but this was different. It sounded angry and hungry. "They're planning something big," whispered Tom Walsh, a young engineer. He sat in the cage next to Lisa. His arm was hurt from the fight on their ship. Lisa nodded. She had been watching the Vex for hours. They moved in groups of 3 or 4. Always following orders from bigger aliens like a pack of wolves with an alpha leader. "Look at their computers," Lisa said quietly. She pointed to a screen showing star maps. "They're not just raiders. This is an organized military." The screen showed many red dots. Each dot was a conquered planet. 17 different worlds belonged to the Vex. Billions of aliens lived as slaves on those worlds. Or worse. Commander Zethkar walked into the prison area. His heavy footsteps made the floor shake. He looked at the human prisoners like a farmer looking at cattle. "Your homeworld will burn," Zethkar said. His voice translator made the words sound cold and evil. 6 billion humans will feed our young. Your cities will become our hunting grounds." Lisa felt sick. Earth had no real space navy, no planetary defenses. The Vex would destroy humanity in weeks. But something else worried her more. The Vex had fought 17 other species. They had won every time. Why? Because those species gave up. They surrendered when they saw Vex ships. They accepted slavery to stay alive. The Vex had never fought a species that refused to quit. Back on the New Horizon, Captain Morrison called an emergency meeting. His remaining crew gathered in the damaged dining hall. 150 humans sat on broken chairs and boxes. Navigator Dan Foster stood up first. He was a thin man with worried eyes. "Captain, I have bad news. The aliens copied our computer files. They know Earth's location. They know our population numbers. They know we have no real weapons." The crew started talking all at once. Some wanted to run back to Earth. Others wanted to try rescuing their friends. A few suggested hiding until the aliens left. Morrison raised his hand for silence. "There's something else you need to know. I received a classified message before we left Earth. Military intelligence suspected we might meet hostile aliens. They gave me special orders." Amy Rodriguez looked surprised. "What kind of orders?" Morrison walked to a wall panel and entered. A secret code. A hidden compartment opened. Inside were small metal boxes and computer chips. "Protocol Omega," Morrison said. "Combat enhancement drugs and tactical implants, designed to turn civilians into soldiers in emergency situations." Ben Hayes picked up one of the boxes. "Captain, these are military-grade stimulants. They make humans faster, stronger, and more aggressive, but they're dangerous." "More dangerous than extinction?" Morrison asked. The crew looked at each other. They were scientists and engineers, not warriors, but they were also human. And humans had a long history of fighting impossible odds. "I volunteer," said Steve Murphy, the ship's pilot. He was young and brave, with quick reflexes. "Me too," said Hayes. "My Marines are gone. Someone needs to get them back." Amy stood up, slowly. "If we're doing this, we need weapons. The mining equipment can be modified. Drilling lasers, explosive charges, metal cutters. Not military weapons. But they'll hurt." Over the next 6 hours, the new horizon changed. Civilians became soldiers. Scientists became weapons experts. Mining tools became instruments of war. The combat drugs made humans faster and stronger. The tactical implants let them communicate without talking. They could coordinate attacks and share information instantly. Morrison felt the drugs working, in his blood. His vision became sharper, his reflexes improved, his fear disappeared, replaced by cold anger. "Listen carefully," Morrison told his new army. "The Vex think we're weak prey animals. They're wrong. Humans are the most dangerous predators on Earth. We hunted mammoths with stone spears. We crossed oceans in wooden boats. We survived ice, ages, and plagues." The crew nodded. They felt different now. Not like scared explorers, but like something else. Something deadly. "The Vex made one mistake," Morrison continued. "They took our people. And humans never abandoned their pack. The rescue mission launched at midnight, ship time. Mining drones flew toward the Vex command ship. But these drones carried explosives instead of rock samples." Steve Murphy piloted a small maintenance pod. It was fast and hard to detect. He flew through the asteroid field, hiding behind space rocks. The Vex sensors couldn't find him. Hayes led a team of 20 humans through the ship's ventilation system. They crawled through narrow tunnels like human-sized worms. The tactical implants let them move in perfect silence and coordination. When the mining drones hit the Vex ship, alarms started screaming. Explosions tore holes in the alien hull. Emergency doors slammed shut. Vex warriors ran to battle stations. They expected another ship attack. They didn't expect humans crawling through their air vents. Hayes and his team appeared inside the Vex ship like ghosts. They moved through dark corridors using night vision implants. When Vex guards came to investigate, the humans struck from shadows. The Vex were bigger and stronger, but humans were smarter and more determined. They used teamwork and tactics. 3 humans could bring down 1 Vex warrior if they worked together. Steve Murphy crashed his pod into the prison section. The impact created a hole in the ship's side. Hayes and his team rushed through, firing stolen Vex weapons. "Move, move, move," Hayes shouted as he broke open the prison cages. Lisa Carter grabbed important data files from a Vex computer. Information about their military strength, their home worlds, their weaknesses. Intelligence that could save humanity. The rescue team fought their way back to their ship. Vex warriors pursued them, but humans had one advantage. They could fight in total darkness while coordinating complex ambushes. When Zethkar reached the prison area, he found empty cages, and dead guards. The humans had vanished like smoke, taking their people and valuable intelligence with them. Impossible, Zethkar growled. Prey animals do not hunt predators. But as the new horizon limped away toward Earth, he began to understand. These humans were not prey animals. They were something else entirely. Something that refused to give up. Something that fought back. For the first time in his life, Commander Zethkar felt afraid. 6 months after first contact, 200 Vex warships approached Earth's solar system. The massive fleet moved like a dark cloud across space. Each ship carried thousands of Vex warriors ready to hunt human prey. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the human battleship Defiance. She was a tough woman with short gray hair and steel eyes. 3 months ago, she had been commanding cargo ships. Now she led Earth's entire space navy. Enemy fleet detected at Jupiter orbit, reported Communications Officer Tony Rivers. 200 ships all armed for planetary assault. Sullivan looked at her own fleet. 50 human ships, hastily converted from mining vessels and cargo haulers. Against 200 Vex warships, it seemed hopeless. But Earth had changed in 6 months. When the new horizon returned with news of the Vex threat, humanity had awakened, like a sleeping giant. Every nation on Earth joined the Terran Defense Coalition. Every factory started making weapons. Every person prepared to fight. Director Paul Mason led the coalition from a bunker deep under the Rocky Mountains. He was a former general with experience in 3 wars. His job was simple: keep humanity alive. Admiral Sullivan, you have permission to engage. Mason's voice crackled over the radio. Make them pay for every inch. Sullivan smiled grimly. All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan. Remember what they did to our people. Remember what they plan to do to our families. Today we show them that humans don't die quietly. The space battle began near Mars. Vex ships fired energy beams that could melt steel. Human ships responded with nuclear missiles and mining lasers. The explosions lit up space like deadly fireworks. Fighter pilot Alex Turner led a squadron of converted mining shuttles. His small ships were fast, but lightly armed. Against Vex fighters, they should have been destroyed in minutes. But Alex had learned something important from the rescued prisoners. The Vex flew in predictable patterns. They relied on superior firepower and armor. They didn't expect prey animals to be clever. Phoenix Squadron, break formation. Alex called over his radio. Use the asteroid belt for cover. Make them come to us. Alex's fighters scattered into the rocks floating between Mars and Jupiter. When Vex fighters followed, they found themselves in a maze of stone and metal. Human pilots used the asteroids as shields and weapons. Alex waited behind a large rock until a Vex fighter passed by. Then he rammed his ship into the alien craft using his ejection seat at the last second. The explosion destroyed both ships, but the human pilot survived. The Vex pilot didn't. Ramming speed, Alex shouted over the radio. Take them with you. Other human pilots followed his example. They turned their ships into guided missiles. The Vex had never seen anything like it. Prey animals didn't sacrifice themselves to kill predators. On Earth's surface, Marine Colonel Rick Stone prepared for the ground invasion. He stood in the ruins of New York City, watching Vex landing ships descend from the sky like metal raindrops. Stone was a big man with scars on his hands and face. He had fought in urban warfare before, but never against 8-foot-tall alien monsters. Remember the plan, Stone told his troops over the radio. Don't fight them in the open. Use the buildings. Use the sewers. Use every trick we know. The first Vex hunting parties landed in Central Park. They expected to terrorize human civilians and force a quick surrender. Instead, they found empty streets and silent buildings. The humans had evacuated the cities, but they hadn't abandoned them. Every building had become a fortress. Every street corner hid an ambush. Every sewer tunnel concealed human soldiers. When the Vex hunters entered the city, the buildings seemed to come alive. Windows exploded outward as human snipers fired. Manholes opened to reveal soldiers with rocket launchers. The city itself became a weapon. Vex Commander Kethvor led the first hunting pack. He was Zethkar's brother, just as big and twice as mean. He had conquered 6 planets using the same tactics: land, hunt, terrorize, conquer. But humans didn't run away screaming. They fought back from every shadow. When his hunting pack entered a subway tunnel, explosives buried them under tons of concrete. When they tried to clear a building, human soldiers appeared from hidden passages in the walls. "Where are they?" Kethvor roared in frustration. His hunters were being picked off one by one, but they couldn't find the human fighters to kill them. In the hospital district, medic Jenny Clark continued treating wounded soldiers even as the battle raged around her. She was a small woman with gentle hands, but she refused to abandon her patients. When Vex hunters broke into the hospital, they expected to find helpless civilians. Instead, they found Jenny and 20 wounded soldiers who could still fight. The patients used medical equipment as weapons. IV stands became spears. Oxygen tanks became explosives. Jenny stayed with her patients until the end. When the Vex finally overwhelmed the hospital defenders, they found something that confused them. The human medic had died protecting wounded enemies. Why would prey animals sacrifice themselves for others? At the secret laboratory in Colorado, Dr. Lisa Carter worked day and night on a new weapon. She had studied Vex biology from the prisoners they captured. Now she understood their weakness. "Their armor is organic," Lisa explained to Director Mason. "It's part of their skin, but that means it can get sick." Lisa had created a virus that attacked Vex armor plates. The disease would spread through their ranks like wildfire. What protected them would become their weakness. "How do we deliver it?" Mason asked. Lisa pointed to Sergeant Mike Davis, a Special Forces soldier. "Human volunteers. They go into Vex ships and release the virus. It means certain death for the volunteers." Mason expected no one to volunteer for a suicide mission. He was wrong. Hundreds of humans stepped forward. They understood that sometimes one person must die so that many can live. Mike Davis led the first virus mission. He and 12 other soldiers infiltrated a Vex command ship using captured alien equipment. They released Lisa's biological weapon into the ship's air system. Within hours, Vex warriors started getting sick. Their armor cracked and fell off. Their claws became brittle. Their strength faded. The mighty hunters became helpless prey. Commander, Zethkar received the reports from Earth with growing horror. His hunting fleets were being destroyed by creatures that should have been easy prey. His brother Kethvor was dead, killed by human defenders in a building collapse. "Send more ships," Zethkar ordered his fleet commander. "Send everything we have." But privately, he began to understand a terrible truth. The Vex had made a mistake. They had assumed that physical strength made them apex predators. They had never encountered a species that was dangerous because of their minds, their determination, and their willingness to die for each other. For the first time in Vex history, the hunters had become the hunted. 1 year after first contact, the war had spread across 12 star systems. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the massive human dreadnought Vengeance. The ship was built from captured Vex technology and human engineering. It was faster and deadlier than anything the aliens had ever seen. Morrison was no longer the careful explorer from the New Horizon. The combat drugs and year of war had changed him. His eyes were harder now. His voice carried the authority of a man who had learned to hunt predators. "Target the Vex supply depot on Kepler 7, Morrison ordered his weapons officer. "No survivors." The human fleet had grown to 300 ships. Earth's factories worked day and night building new vessels. But these weren't just human ships anymore. They used Vex technology captured in battle, improved by human creativity. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Brooks led deep reconnaissance missions behind enemy lines. She was a small woman with quick reflexes and a genius for languages. She could speak 7 alien dialects and pass for a Vex slave when necessary. Sarah had spent 3 months on Zerion Prime, the Vex homeworld. She lived in the slave quarters, gathering intelligence and making contact with rebel groups. The Vex had ruled 17 species for decades, but now those slaves were ready to fight back. "The slave uprising begins in 6 hours, Sarah reported from her hidden base. "The Zephyrians will attack their guards first. The Keltari will sabotage the weapon factories. The Vex won't know what hit them. On Earth, the war had transformed humanity itself. Director Paul Mason looked older and harder than before. The responsibility of leading humanity's fight for survival had aged him quickly. "How many ships can we spare for the final assault?" Mason asked Admiral Sullivan. She commanded Earth's home defense fleet from her rebuilt battleship. 50 ships, Sullivan replied. "It's risky, but Admiral Morrison thinks he can take Zarian Prime with combined human and rebel forces." Mason nodded. It was a desperate plan. Send most of humanity's fleet across the galaxy to attack the Vex homeworld. If they failed, Earth would be defenseless. But if they succeeded, the war would be over. Dr. Lisa Carter had been promoted to Chief of Biological Warfare. Her virus weapons had crippled 3 Vex fleets, but she had developed something even more dangerous. "The new virus targets their reproductive system," Lisa explained to Mason. "It won't kill them, but they won't be able to have children. Their population will slowly shrink until they're extinct." Mason felt sick. Using biological weapons to make a species extinct was genocide. But the Vex had planned to harvest 6 billion humans. Sometimes horrible choices were necessary for survival. "Deploy it only if we're losing," Mason ordered. "Humanity will not become monsters to defeat monsters." The final battle began in the Zarian system. Admiral Morrison's fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the Vex homeworld. 200 human ships faced 500 Vex defenders. The odds were still against humanity. But the Vex were no longer the confident predators they had been a year ago. Human tactics had shattered their military doctrine. Human persistence had worn down their forces. Human creativity had turned their own weapons against them. Commander Zethkar led the Vex defense from his flagship. He was the last of the great hunting commanders. His brothers were dead, killed by human soldiers who refused to surrender. His fleets were scattered across the galaxy, fighting human raiders who struck without warning. "All ships, attack formation," Zethkar ordered. "We end this today." The space battle raged for 6 hours. Human ships used kamikaze tactics and coordinated pack attacks. When conventional weapons failed, they rammed Vex vessels or set off nuclear self-destructs. Colonel Ben Hayes led human boarding parties onto Vex ships. He was scarred and missing one arm from previous battles, but he had learned to fight with Vex weapons and human determination. "Remember the New Horizon," Hayes shouted as his Marines stormed a Vex cruiser. "Remember Earth. No mercy for the monsters." On the planet's surface, the slave rebellion had begun. Zephyrian workers with 4 arms used their natural abilities to build barricades and weapons. Keltari miners with rock-hard skin fought Vex guards in underground tunnels. 17 different species united against their common enemy. Ambassador John Kelly coordinated the uprising from a hidden command center. He was a diplomat who had learned to be a warrior. His job was keeping the rebel alliance together. "All rebel units, the human fleet is engaging the Vex Navy," Kelly announced. "Begin Phase 2. Attack all military installations." The Vex found themselves fighting on 2 fronts: human ships in space and rebel armies on the ground. Their superior numbers meant nothing when enemies attacked from everywhere at once. Zethkar made a desperate decision. He challenged Admiral Morrison to single combat according to ancient Vex tradition. Winner takes all. The losing side would surrender completely. Morrison accepted the challenge, but he brought Sergeant Mike Davis as his partner. Davis had survived the virus mission and 3 major battles. He was the most dangerous human soldier alive. "Vex tradition says single combat," Zethkar protested. "1 warrior against 1 warrior." Morrison smiled coldly. "Human tradition says we hunt in packs, 2 against 1. Take it or leave it." The fight took place on Zethkar's flagship. The Vex commander was 8 feet tall with natural armor and razor claws. Morrison and Davis were smaller humans with stolen alien weapons and tactical implants. But humans had learned something important during the war. Size and strength weren't everything. Speed, intelligence, and teamwork could defeat any predator. Morrison attacked from the front while Davis circled behind. When Zethkar turned to face one human, the other struck. They moved like wolves bringing down a bear. Coordinated, relentless, and deadly. The fight lasted 10 minutes. When it ended, Zethkar lay dead on his ship's bridge. The last great Vex commander had been killed by two humans working together. With their leader dead and their fleet scattered, the Vex Empire surrendered. The surviving aliens were relocated to prison worlds where they could hunt non-intelligent animals. Their slave species were freed to rebuild their civilizations. Humanity emerged as the dominant military power in their region of space, not because they were strongest or fastest, but because they never gave up, because they protected their pack, because they turned their weaknesses into strengths. Admiral Morrison's final log entry was simple. They thought they were predators because they had claws and fangs. They learned too late that the most dangerous predator is the one that never stops hunting, never stops adapting, and never abandons the pack. Today, humanity proved that evolution's greatest creation isn't the creature with the sharpest teeth, but the one with the most determined heart. 3 years later, human exploration fleets ventured into unknown regions of space. Other species greeted them not as conquerors, but as liberators. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Many species could be predators, but only humans had perfected the art of being human.